This is the City of Waupaca's City Plan Commission meeting.
All right, so you have an agenda. I don't think there's any additions to that agenda or additional handouts, so we would just need a motion to approve that agenda.
Olson to approve.
Keelan second. Keelan second.
Thank you. Motion by Eric Olson, second by Alan Keelan, that we approve of the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Motion carried. All right, we have minutes that we make motions on just to place them in file. We have August 26th, a special meeting, September 2nd, which was a regular meeting, and then another special meeting on September 14th. All of those are in your packet. We would need a motion to approve those unless you see some changes that need to be done.
Yeah, this is Alan. I noticed the September 14th minutes has Tracy listing as absent, but later on shows her leaving the discussion at 6:16. So one or the other has to be corrected.
Yeah, and I don't remember. I'm thinking she was probably there, but Aaron, do you want to check that and make sure?
She left. Thank you. She left early, Mayor. I remember that as well, and I believe I wrote a note down. It must have just got transmitted wrong.
Okay. Well, yeah, it couldn't have been your fault.
Yeah, jeez.
Of course not.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that anybody sees? All right. We would need a motion to approve those minutes with that one change.
So moved, Fair.
Keelan second.
Motion by Pat Ferris, second by Alan Keelan, that we approve of those 3 minutes with that one change. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Motion carried. Next up, we have action items. So we have a site plan review for Mark Lipinski for N2Y storage at 715 Bartlett Street. Aaron, are you, or is this Andrew?
Oh, I'm going to turn this right over to Jeff, our zoning administrator, for his report, and then to Justin after that for any comments he had. But this one's fairly straightforward, I believe.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the Plan Commission. Aaron's right. It's relatively straightforward. Compliments to Mr. Lipinski for putting together a well-designed site plan. He was very amenable to the comments that I provided over the course of this review process. And really the only question that remains for the Plan Commission is item number 1 on the last, the penultimate page of the report regarding the incorporation of shrubbery or additional trees. It is not a requirement. It's a Plan Commission discretion. So the question to those of you on the commission is whether or not the proposed 6 trees, 3 on the east side of the parcel, 3 on the west side of the parcel, are sufficient to meet that requirement for 60% opacity.
Aaron, could you put the drawing up on the board for us?
Yeah, I was going to say, what page is that in our packet that shows the pictures of those shrubbery? I didn't. Oh, okay. It looks like
page 13.
13, yeah. Okay.
Hey guys, I'm back here. I don't know, we got some internet problems. Did I just hear page 13 you guys are on?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
There it is.
Jeff, could you just reiterate your concern, or not concern, but your question now that we can look at the drawing?
Sure. So chapter 17, 320 sub 3 sub I of the zoning ordinance reads as follows. You'll see this midway down on page 2. landscape buffers. Buffers should, not shall, mind you, should incorporate shrubs, berming, and deciduous and coniferous trees to provide an all-season screen with an opacity of at least 60% at maturity. So the question before the Plan Commission is really, well, I guess first and foremost, does this meet a 60% opacity? If the answer is yes, then there is no issue. If it doesn't, the Plan Commission has the discretion because the use of the word should allows for the Plan Commission to not require it. If it were shall, it would be a little bit more, well, not a little bit, it would be declarative and affirmative. So given the layout of the property, I think, Aaron, if you were to scroll back to page 9, they'll show the parcel itself of the application packet, I should say. There are 2 trees on the parcel, one kind of centered towards the rear, and the other kind of offset on the back northeast corner. Aaron, can you hear me okay?
No, he looks like he's locked up, but
let me approach it from a different way. Does you have the application, the hard copies in front of you?
yeah.
So if you scroll to my report, page 4 of my report. Yeah, it goes photography for the parcel in question, the surrounding parcels.
Looks like he's back on again now, so.
Guys, I apologize. I never have home internet problems, and I decided I'm just gonna probably set up shop and live in my office because I try to have one meeting at home and it's not working.
Well, it's
Aaron,
working now.
Could you back up to page 9 of the application packet? Thank you. Now, if you notice, the parcel in question is the one right in the middle there. There's an existing tree centered. There's a tree that kind of overhangs the northeast corner of the property. And what Mr. Lipinski is proposing are those 3 trees on the western boundary and 3 on the eastern boundary. And again, I want to stress, I have no issues or concerns with it. The question is to the Plan Commission whether or not it meets, whether or not it's consistent with your preferences.
So Jeff, this is the mayor.
Yes, sir.
So that 715 Bartlett Street, he's going to be putting a storage building on there. So does he live in a house that's contiguous to that?
I don't believe so, but I know Mr. Lipinski is on the meeting right now, so he can respond to that.
I do not. I am interested in purchasing that house. The individual that lived there was a longtime friend of mine. He passed away back in January. So the house will be sold, and I am interested in purchasing it when it becomes available. But right now I don't own it and I do not live there.
And so that would be 709 Bartlett
Correct.
Street? Okay. So Jeff, I've had some experience with this on some property that I own. And by the way, I own some property that's almost contiguous to this property too, by the way. So, but I don't think I need to abstain from the discussion here. So he's going to put up a storage building on this property. And so is it, I'm assuming it's zoned properly to allow that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what is it zoned?
I-2, heavy industry.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And just a follow-up, Jeff, you said earlier, the picture shows the tree. I assume that tree then would remain when the building was put up.
That is correct.
Okay. And did you choose in your drawing? I know you chose just to put the locations of the trees, but did you use the city's recommendation on what type of trees to put in?
I I didn't know if there was a recommendation on a type. I know there was a recommendation on a size, and I will adhere to the size, but I'll also adhere to a type if you have a preference. I was going to base it on what was available, and I don't know. I was hoping to get these trees planted yet this fall, but it may not happen. The trees might not get planted until spring because we're getting fairly late in the season.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin Barrett, we went over this once before when we were looking at the ordinances. We do have a list of acceptable trees and those that we don't accept. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, we do. So we have a list, and that's one thing that I did not go over with Mark when I met with him, but certainly I can get back together with him, give him our list, or vice versa. If he picks out trees, tell us which species they are, and we can just say yay or nay. So it should be pretty simple, straightforward.
Okay, thank you.
That 719, Jeff, to finish my questions, that 719 is also industrial?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. All three of those parcels and the parcels abutting to the rear are zoned I2 heavy industry.
Okay. All right.
To the north, I should say.
And so just to make sure, so the building that he's putting on that property on 715 Bartlett is going to be closer to the road. I don't even know what the name of that street is. I should, but at the bottom. Yeah, Bartlett. No, obviously Bartlett Street. But hello. Sorry about that, you guys. So little brain pause. So the building is going to be closer to Bartlett Street than it is to the back lot line?
That's correct.
Okay. I have no other questions. Good for him for finding a use for that parcel.
My 2 cents on the opacity that Jeff was mentioning is, I don't know, I look at this site plan mathematically, it looks like at least 50% of those squares are taken up by greenery. So I would say roughly it meets that, and existing trees staying, it might even satisfy that requirement. So I would not be requesting additional trees here.
Well, I would just reiterate what Justin said. I think looking at it, it would probably fall into the requirements. And as Justin said, as long as the trees that are planted are the ones that are part of our comprehensive plan or are part of our ordinance packet, I think it makes sense to move forward.
And I agree with that.
Yeah, me as well. I'm good with that.
So, Justin, did you have any other comments?
Yeah, a couple quick ones. I did meet Mark out there. We talked about his driveway and what he plans to do with his driveway meets our ordinances, and so that's not an issue. We talked about drainage and stormwater runoff and how to grade his site properly. So if he gets a good builder and builds this building the way it should be, we shouldn't really have any issues. It's a small enough build where the DNR additional permitting is not required at all. So basically, to me, it's fairly straightforward. It's like the mayor said, a good add to this parcel over there in that area. So outside of that, I don't have any concerns with it. I think Mark's a good guy, and this should be a good project for us.
Jeff, you want to add anything else to that?
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So we're looking for an approval of that site plan review, and that does not have to go to City Council, right? That's just an approval by the City Planning Commission.
Correct.
Okay. So anybody that would like to make a motion to approve this site plan review?
I'll make a motion. This is fair. I'll make a motion that the site plan be accepted.
Olson, second.
Motion by Pat Fair, second by Eric Olson, that we approve the site plan review for Mark Lipinski for N2Y storage at 715 Bartlett Street. Any discussion? Just do a voice vote here. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Anybody that would like to abstain? Motion carried.
Brian, as long as Mr. Lipinski's online, could we just ask him what his plans are in terms of the future, when he might start, et cetera?
I've been talking with my builder, and we're looking at. Now I've got the permit for the concrete, because I did have some questions too. Because Lee Worth, my concrete guy, actually K&H Concrete can probably get this slab poured middle to late October. My builder can start building first or second week in November, and it's a pretty straightforward, quick build. This should be all done before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Provided I can get, I guess now, what do I need now? And I know I have to do I have to talk personally with Jane to get building permits, or can somebody else, because I know she's only there 2 days a week, provide the permit?
Yeah. So Mark, you can talk with Elizabeth as well.
Okay.
And you are not the only person trying to get slabs of concrete in before the cold weather hits. So let's get talking even as soon as tomorrow, or for sure by the end of this week, and we'll get you moving.
Perfect. Tomorrow sounds perfect.
All right. Awesome.
All right. We approved that, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. Mark, good luck to you.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on then. Next is zoning code rewrite, and I think we're at a point where we want to make a recommendation to Common Council. Jeff, what would you like to talk about on this tonight?
I'm going to set this up just for a second here. So, guys, we put this on the agenda because we talked about it and got a consensus about pushing it to a public hearing, but we actually didn't make a formal vote on it. Luckily, that public hearing is scheduled for October 20th, so we put this on the agenda to make that formal vote. In the meantime, in the time between then, there was one thing that we felt necessary to change because there was some things that with Main Street signage and murals and so on and so forth that didn't really reflect what we felt like Plan Commission probably wanted as far as direction moving forward. So I'm going to let Jeff go through that very quickly. It's a kind of a one item issue, and then we would take the formal vote for public hearing, and then that would be reflected in the document for October 20th. If you guys agree, or if you don't, we can have more conversation. But Jeff, you want to take it from there?
Absolutely. Thank you. I do have one additional request for a brief discussion about site plan review for industrial parcels, but that'll take about 2 minutes. Aaron, do the Plan Commission members have a copy of this comparison of wall sign regulations?
No, I didn't think I did not get the updated one after I sent you an email today with my comments on it. Do you have that on your computer that we can share with them?
I do, but unfortunately I can't share with you. So you are not able to allow me to share.
I'm not, huh? How does that work?
No, I'm running a Mac, and the systems that the city uses.
All right, why don't you email me real quick? I'll throw it up.
While I'm doing this, the issue that I wanted to mention about site plan review, the way the ordinance is written right now, site plan review is required any time a building, I want to stress, not just site plan review, but site plan review and Plan Commission approval is required any time a building is constructed, regardless of how small or insignificant that building might be. Aaron, email is on its way to you right now.
Thank you.
The way the ordinance is written, it says development subject to site plan review. A site plan shall be submitted to the Plan Commission for review and approval prior to issuance of a building permit for the construction of any new building. And some other stuff. The issue has arisen now twice where we have parcels that are zoned industrial or business, and a landowner is proposing a very small little accessory structure. In the case of this MyTech property, if I remember correctly, it's a couple hundred square feet, 300 or 400 square feet. And my question to you as the Plan Commission is, are you comfortable if we were to amend the ordinance to allow the Community Economic Development Director, basically in this case, Aaron, to determine whether or not the construction of a new structure requires Plan Commission approval or whether it can be approved at the staff level? Because right now, this individual is going to have to wait through not only the amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow for a height in excess of 15 feet, but also go through this formal Plan Commission approval for something that, again, is really, given the site, an insignificant structure. So that's a question for you to ponder as we consider wall signs.
So the reason that we're talking about this wall sign document is because it's a couple of reasons. One is related to murals. Two is the fact that Elizabeth Holsworth and I took a walk down Main Street and we wanted to see what the signage we had in the new code proposed, what would be allowed, what wouldn't. You know, we felt like some of these signs that you're seeing were some of the nicer looking signs on Main Street. Without being, gaudy or anything like that. And we didn't want to really handcuff businesses' abilities to do a similar type project in the future under our new code. So we wanted to make sure that some of these nicer looking signs would continue to be able to go up in the Main Street area. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Jeff. Sorry.
Thanks, Aaron. So the rewrite that we have been discussing would have transitioned from a percentage of the facade of the structure to the lineal feet of frontage on the road. So if you have a building that has 500 feet of road frontage, you could have a 500 square foot sign, a one-to-one relationship. And we pointed out, as you recall, that there are a number of parcels, particularly downtown, that are on very, very narrow lots. In some cases, lots that are 25, 30 feet wide, which would limit them to wall signs of 20 to 30 square feet. And when Aaron and Elizabeth walked, they found a number of existing signs that far exceed that requirement. Furthermore, we kept having this discussion about how to accommodate murals. And given the Supreme Court decision that we've discussed, we really had two options. We could regulate wall signs and keep them relatively small, but then limit the ability to have large murals, or we could allow large murals, but have to then tolerate or allow for relatively large wall signs. So the recommendation I'm making right now, Aaron and I talked about, and Aaron might want to jump in a little bit more on discussions that he and Andrew had with the city of Appleton and their ordinance, which comes into play here too. But what I'm proposing is that on the street-facing facade of any structure, when that street-facing facade is the facade associated with the mailbox or the mail number, the postal address, that the maximum square footage for a wall sign, regardless of the size of the structure, would be 150 square feet. Now, there's going to be a whole bunch of limiting factors involved there. You can't put a wall sign over windows. You cannot put it over doors. You cannot put it over significant architectural elements and architectural accoutrements. So it's not as if you can have a very, very small building with a ridiculously large sign. Odds are the doorway, the parapet, the windows are going to create or frame the area within which this wall sign can be located. For all other facades, so a rear alley facade and the side facades, the maximum allowable size would be the actual wall. So you could have a mural on a downtown building that fills up the entirety of the wall. Now, because of the Reed decision about content neutrality, that would mean you could also have a commercial sign of the same size. So that's the big question for the Plan Commission. In order to accommodate and allow for murals in the city, are you comfortable within the B2 and B7 districts, so within the Central Business District and the Riverfront District, providing the opportunity for a business owner to put a rather large sign on his or her property? Now, the question I have, well, you notice on the right column there, half of 4 rows down, it says retain this statement ? So it says in computing signable area, any facade which faces or abuts a public right of way may be utilized. Now, that means that only those facades that are either up against a sidewalk, a street, or an alley may be painted. If you had, and I apologize, I'm gonna have to try to describe a visual here, but imagine you have a 2-story structure and just abutting that structure is a 3-story structure. Now, the side of the 3-story structure closest to the 2-story structure would be visible, but because it's not abutting a right of way, that side of the structure could not be used for signs or murals. Does that make sense? So you had the differing heights would allow there'd be a blank wall on that 3-story structure, but because it's not abutting a right of way, it could not be used for signage. I guess my gut says I'm not comfortable with that requirement. I think if you have a blank wall within the Central Business District and the Riverfront District, you should be able to use it. But that's a question for the Planning Commission.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. I mean, I think if you could see a wall, I'd probably.
Yeah, Aaron, if you could hang out on that first page table for a second. And that's exactly it, Mr. Mayor. Effectively, it would be, if you have nothing but 3-story structures against 3-story structures, a number of those structures are going to have 2 facades that they can utilize, right? They'll have the street-facing mailing address facade, and then perhaps the back of the building on an alley. But when you do have a parking lot or a private drive separating 2 buildings, or you have 2 buildings of differing heights, there will be opportunities to use a wall for signage or for a mural that would not be available if we keep this language in computing signable area, any facade which faces or abuts a public right of way may be utilized. So removing that sentence that's underlined, as the mayor just alludes, opens up that wall for a sign. Leaving it in means that wall would not be available.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of examples of that downtown, but I just keep thinking of if you driving on West Fulton coming east towards Main Street, you'll see the paint store, which is in the front 1 story, and then the building next to it is I don't know if it's 2 or 3 stories, but there used to be a sign on there or a mural on there. I don't know if it still is or not. Guess I haven't looked there, but that would be an example, I think, of what you're talking about, Jeff, I would guess.
Sure. Another example, and again, those of you, everybody in this meeting right now is going to know more about this than I, but I used Google Street View to basically walk back and forth up and down Main Street. And there are a number of very, very small buildings on very small lots with taller buildings on each side. And there's a term that Andrew will be very familiar with called pocket parks, where you have a downtown and all of a sudden there's a very small little vacant lot and a community will put a little park in there, maybe just a rest and reflection area with a bench. Well, there are also pocket murals or pocket art or hidden art. There are these murals in public artworks that aren't right out there in front of everybody to see. You kind of have to discover it, and you kind of have to be in the right place at the right time, looking in the right direction. And there are a number of these small buildings next to larger buildings that, because of the size of the smaller building, the scale difference, create opportunities for these kind of hidden pieces of art. So there are a number of them. If I would say at least half a dozen, probably considerably more, just walking the stretch of Main Street. And then the other definition, you'll know, or the other change is the definition. And this is, again, in the interest of ensuring that the ordinance applies equally to signs and murals. And that's the bottom right-hand box you see, a sign, mural, or similar display. So what we're doing is we're avoiding a definition that is content-based. It's basically if it's stuck to a wall or if it's stuck to a structure, it meets the definition of a wall sign. So those are the changes proposed. And I think now, if you don't mind, Aaron, let's go through each of these follow-up pages and talk about them a little bit. So if you notice on top, it says current ordinance rewrite option 1, rewrite option number 2. Under the current ordinance as written, both of these signs are non-conforming. The bookseller sign and Little Fat Gretchen signs are too large. They're much larger than 5% of the wall area of that structure. So these signs are not allowable. They can be maintained because they're non-conforming. But if they were ever replaced, if another business came in there and replaced the signs, they would have to comply with the ordinance. Under the rewrite option 1, the original one that we talked about, these would no longer be valid either, again, because based on the based upon the frontage of the structures, there's not enough street frontage to allow for signs this big. The rewrite would allow them because each of these signs are smaller than 150 square feet. Aaron, if you could scroll to the next one. Same situation here for new to you and Waupaca River Gallery and Gifts. Both of these signs on these buildings are non-compliant with the current ordinance and non-compliant with the original draft of the rewrite, but would be compliant with option 2. And I think, as Aaron pointed out, without getting into the artistic or design merits of these, the signs themselves I don't view them necessarily as visually burdensome. Certainly the Waupaca River Gallery and Gifts is a very well designed sign. The scale looks appropriate for that structure, even though it's too big under the current ordinance and too big under the original proposed rewrite. Aaron, if you could go to the next one.
Jeff, could I ask a question before you go to the next one?
Absolutely.
Looking at the one we just talked about, the gallery, could that sign under the new ordinance go all the way up so that it would be right below the windows above?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the limit, right? It's a great, was that Alan?
No, that was Pat. Fair.
I'm sorry, Pat. That's a great question. So you recall earlier I said a sign cannot cover windows, cannot cover doors, and cannot cover significant architectural elements. So if you look at the structure, the windows above basically block off the bulk of the area above the existing sign. And then above the windows, you have the design elements and the parapet. So that blocks off that. So even if we had an unlimited square footage signage for street facades, there's no way this structure could exceed, something in the neighborhoods probably of 120 or 130 square feet. There's just not enough space there.
Right.
So great question. Thank you. And that would be the same would be true for the structure to the left, the new to you building. If you notice those architectural elements above the canopies over the windows, or I'm sorry, above the awnings over the windows, that would be a limiting feature as well. So when we talk about 150 square feet or a sign that is 500, 700, 1,000 square feet on the side of a building, it cannot be a sign that blocks any of these elements. Go ahead, Aaron. So again, this one, a sign that from a scale standpoint and a design standpoint, I would argue is desirable. I mean, it's a visually appealing sign, 2 signs actually, because there's the one right below it. But this sign is not compliant with the current ordinance. It would be compliant with the first draft of the rewrite because it's a corner lot. So it'd be able to use all of that frontage. It would not be compliant with, so the size of the Main Street Marketplace structure the Main Street Marketplace sign itself is compliant with options 1 or 2. Now there's a wild card here, and that is the fact that this particular building has 4 wall signs. which is non-compliant with either the current, the rewrite number 1 or rewrite number 2. So I don't show the facade, but the facade to the left has 2 signs on it, 2 wall signs, and you have 2 wall signs here. So one of those wall signs is non-conforming. You go to the next one, Aaron. Oh, did we lose Aaron again?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm on the next one. It might be lagging for you a little bit.
Well, it is indeed. So I'm going to just look at my version of it. Does everybody else see the next one?
Yes.
Yep.
So here you have the
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The chain of lakes sign on the right, the other one on the left. Both of these signs are compliant with the current ordinance. Both are compliant with option 2, but neither would be compliant with option 1. And again, the reason being is the very narrow or very limited width of the frontage. Interestingly, as I was alluding to earlier, there's actually available wall space to the left of the Chain of Lakes building. You notice it there? There's a brick facade. This isn't exactly what I was talking about, but there are a number of buildings like this where a smaller structure is set back from the street farther, creating opportunities for artwork or commercial signage. Any questions before we go to the last of the slides? I think everybody in the room is probably familiar with this one. This mural is not compliant with the current ordinance, and it would not be compliant with option 1, but would be compliant with option 2. So take the mural out of the picture for a moment. And you mentioned, you recall I mentioned a few moments ago how existing architectural elements, including windows, actually create the framework within which a sign or a mural can be placed on a structure. So the line that appears towards the top, the line that frames the parapet above the windows, the element that moves kind of laterally across the page, no sign could be above that. No sign could cover up these windows, and no sign could cover up the doors. However, a mural or a sign that is painted or affixed to the wall, leaving openings for these windows, could be put on this structure. So this mural that we're looking at here, in theory, could be nearly twice the size on this structure. Under the rewrite option 2. And that's all I have right now on this. So if there are any questions.
Okay, sorry, I didn't I needed to unmute here. All right, so Aaron, tell us again what we're recommending to City Council.
So first, I guess, I think we just probably need a consensus, not a formal vote, on what you're seeing here with the signage and the murals. Is this something that Plan Commission feels like they can support? And then if so, we would have a formal vote to move it to the public hearing like we kind of anticipated doing before with these changes as outlined tonight.
This is fair. I think the changes that Jeff suggested are appropriate, and quite frankly, I like them.
And this is Alan. I agree.
Yeah, Olson agrees.
Is the recommendation to go with rewrite option 2 then?
That's correct.
Yes,
That
that's
would
correct.
be, yeah, that'd be my vote.
Mine too.
Mine as well.
Yep.
John still on? John Kinnear?
I think I heard he left.
Okay,
Yeah, he dropped out.
okay. All right, yeah, I'm fine with it. I think those are all good changes, quite honestly. So, so then if we, Justin, you're okay with them too? I didn't want to short you.
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Yep. All right. So if we're okay with that, then we should be recommending that we move forward with this to the public hearing that's going to be held on before the city council meeting on October 20th. So that should be a motion.
Mayor, before I make that motion, is that public hearing, is that just prior to a council meeting?
It is.
Is there any reason for any planning commission people to be there?
There will be. I mean, you certainly don't need to be there, Pat, and not expected to, but if you'd like to, you certainly can.
Well, I know Eric and Alan are part of the council, but I didn't know if that was something that the planning commission needed to be represented.
No, I think we're fine.
Okay, thanks.
Pat, you could just peek over Mary's shoulder though when it's happening, you know.
Yeah, thanks. Love that.
Jeff, last time we met, you had some concerns about finding all the shoulds and shalls and so on. Are you comfortable with having found them?
Good. Am I still muted? I had to check. No, I'm okay. I still have to go through that. I'm still going to do the final spell check and make sure that the shalls are should. I did make all the changes that you recommended, and I'll go through to make sure the shalls replace the shoulds as the plan commission directed.
That's fine with me.
All right. So anybody want to make a motion?
I will make the motion to move this to city council or for the hearing.
Thank you.
Second,
Motion
Olson.
by Keelan, second by Olson, that we recommend moving forward through the public hearing on October 20th with the zoning code rewrite, using that rewrite option number 2. Any more discussion?
Brian, does that imply then that right after that public hearing, the council will take it up and assuming adopt it?
Yeah, I wonder, is that in ordinance form? So do we need 2 readings on that?
Yeah, Mayor. So what we talked about doing is, because it's a 100+ page document, Jeff is going to have a little summary sheet that's going to summarize the high point items for council, not go through all the details that you guys have unless council requests more detail afterwards. But it would be public hearing followed by first reading that night. And then if everything continues to move forward, it'd be second reading in that first November meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Anybody that would like to abstain? All right, awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. I do still have one question, and perhaps I'm too late on asking this, but what is the Plan Commission's thoughts regarding giving the Community Economic Development Director some discretion in determining when a new structure in the industrial and business district?
Oh yeah, you asked that and then we kind of ignored it, didn't we?
Jeff, do you have a suggestion for square footage threshold?
Actually, I don't. I think because again, it could be a relatively large building, but due to the size of the property, the size of the existing structures, and this proposed structure itself, it might not warrant Plan Commission review. For instance, if it's a pole shed with not much in it and it's just going to be used for storing product and it's a very large parcel, I wonder if the Plan Commission would feel it necessary to review that. On the other hand, it could be a relatively small structure, but because of the size of the parcel, the size of the existing principal structure, and how that thing's going to be used, it might warrant. So I guess I'm wondering if the Plan Commission is comfortable building in that discretion at the staff level. And if not, then there's no change necessary. And it's just, we have a couple of these that have popped up in the last few months where something's going to go through the Plan Commission review and approval process that I'm not sure the Plan Commission really would feel it necessary to go through. So,
hey, this is Andrew. I'm just going to chime in if that's okay, just to I feel like I should, to do my job as economic development specialist, I would just like I know I don't get a vote in this, but I think if we can do something that can help expedite some of these projects and make them a little bit more efficient time-wise, for folks, I'm all in favor of it, especially if we've got somebody as competent as Aaron is at the helm to sort of make that determination if it really is worthy of discussion. But I kind of like the recommendation for what that's worth.
So
I think I made the argument for it, but the argument against, and maybe that isn't the right way. If the Plan Commission is so inclined, it's going to be critical that the Economic Development Director be consistent over time, right? So that there's no question as to a decision being arbitrary or capricious or another. So I think we could develop policies either formally or just over time that would meet any legal defensibility issues. But anytime you create that kind of discretion, you do create the opportunity for someone to say, well, why did you approve me? Or why did you approve that person and not approve mine? So that's the downside. That's the risk. Now, that said, that same exact burden falls to the Plan Commission as well, right? Because the Plan Commission chooses to approve and not approve things. That argument can be made as well. So it's just a matter of whether we want to have that discretion to allow for that expedited process Andrew describes.
I like the idea of allowing the discretion, but frankly, it also opens it up for bribery. And so that's why I would like to see some sort of guidelines and thresholds developed for this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We got to have some guidelines on this. It can't be arbitrary.
yeah, as much as I would like to expedite some of these things, I know how good Aaron is at making sure that we get the information. I think for those reasons, and maybe to protect Aaron too, that we should probably, for the time being, just leave it the way it is, where it needs to come to city planning. I know we had a couple of smaller projects last year that that we thought shouldn't have had to go to city planning commission, but quite honestly, there were some things that that we needed to give input on anyway. So unless you got a real specific example, I think we should leave it the way it is right now.
I would echo that, Mayor. And I think we can remind Aaron or anybody else in terms of trying to expedite, the city council can be, or the city planning can be called if really necessary for emergency meetings. And we have on occasion to meet the needs of certain people. And as much as we're all sort of Zoom fatigued, I think as commissioners, we would do that if we thought it was important.
Yeah, good point. We can meet pretty easily now with even hopefully once COVID ends, we could still meet remotely if we need to.
You guys have proven over the last several months that you can meet basically at any time. So
yeah, right. So does that answer your question, Jeff?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you.
All right. So I forgot now. Sorry. Did we approve the moving forward? We voted on that. Justin?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. Again, thanks, Jeff. Let's move on to discussion items then. This is the comprehensive plan update and the review of the economic development chapter. Aaron, are you setting this one up or are we going right to Andrew?
we can go right to Andrew.
All right.
Aaron, can you let me drive this thing? I got a presentation I can put up.
Absolutely.
Oh, request control. Okay.
And you should have it.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
All right, I need to share it or something. Okay, what the hell? Stop. Let's see, your mouse is still going around. I'll turn my camera on. Oh, share content. All right. Yeah. All right, there we go. That pop up for you?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm gonna go through this. I think I'm gonna go through this fairly quickly. Try to do this in less than 20 minutes. I'm gonna do a little timer right now to stopwatch right now, starting now. Less than 20 minutes, because it'd be nice to have a little bit of discussion on this. So if people can jump in anytime, but I'm gonna try to get through it fairly quickly so we can maybe have a little discussion at the end. We had identified some previous goals based on a lot of the public input we got, and I think I had run these by you, but just a couple of high-level economic development goals: strengthening and diversifying the economy, training, retention, talented individuals, supporting local businesses. Some of the trends that I think we've seen this summer. And I went out to the Eastgate subdivision today to just piggybacked with Jane and out there. They were doing a final punch list on one of the homes that Green Tree's putting up, and it was really impressive to see the number of homes that they and lots that were sold this summer. 26, 27, the number of homes that have actually, she thinks they might still actually get close to all those in the ground by the end of the year. So I think that's pretty much speaks for itself. There's a big demand out there. And so it's going to be, I think, have some implications for us when we come to updating the zoning map next year and adopting that future land use plan and thinking about some of our growth areas on the edge of the city. If you want to continue to see, that kind of population growth, where are we going to put all those people? But there's some nice trends here, I think, that Waupaca could take advantage of in terms of remote working and kind of playing off that quality of life. A couple of the things, I think I went over a few of these with this group before, but just looking at where the workers are, that the people that come to Waupaca to work, I think 46% of them drive 25 minutes or farther to the city to work. So we've got almost half the people working in the city are coming from 25 minutes or farther away. So those are prime targets for us to target as far as growing the population, looking for people who might want to move to Waupaca. And I spoke with Jill, the owner of Green Tree, today, and asked her where people were coming from that are buying these homes. And she did mention Point, New London, Appleton, Waupaca, Green Bay. And so I think we've got kind of a neat opportunity to capture some of those folks to grow the population, support economic development. And then when you look at the workforce development projections, and this is all pre-COVID, so this would probably almost be more exaggerated. The industries that are projected to grow over the next 10 years are in this self-employed jobs, remote workers, professional business services, a lot of these jobs that can be taken anywhere and are sort of portable. So I think that trend is something we can take advantage of in the city. Again, some of the other issues and opportunities, population growth was brought up as an area of concern with the school district, and loss of retail. So we need to figure out how to address the loss of some of the larger big box retailers, and then opportunities to enhance the economic development delivery system, where some of the issues and opportunities are identified in our discussions. Some of the community assets that we've uncovered and discussed, turns out Waupaca is actually pretty highly educated community when you look at high school and advanced degrees compared to a lot of our comparison communities. The small class sizes at the school district become a real asset, I think, especially right now. And some of those other things, I'm not going to go over all of them right now, but I think you all know what they are. So thinking about how to leverage these things and apply these things to some of the economic development opportunities. So I broke down these in a little bit into, I think, 5 goals, kind of expanded those 2 overall goals, and this kind of breaks down into 5 buckets. But looking at organization, developing, Aaron and I talked about developing kind of a state of the city annual report out where, we could, Aaron or et cetera, could provide a report out on economic development accomplishments over the year. We've looked at reestablishing the CDA, developing a downtown Waupaca program, which I think we're starting to make some progress on, continue to participate in and support local, regional, and state economic development partners and initiatives. So this is kind of all about organizing and creating a framework for being more effective in economic development. Second bucket, second goal, this kind of ties back to some of the housing and incentives and some of these strategies. And again, we'll expand on these in the chapter a little bit more, but looking at that first-time homebuyer program, looking at, as we looked at in the housing chapter, just developing a more comprehensive housing program to upgrade the city's housing stock and create more opportunities for people that want to move into the city and live not just in the newer suburban areas, but in the older neighborhoods where you've got a lot of older homes that need some TLC. Encouraging upgrading of existing downtown housing units, promoting additional housing development, new housing development, including workforce housing, and then promoting redevelopment of underutilized parcels in the city. So some of our target areas, in my mind, that's kind of the Kmart Shopko area. It's the School Street properties, the stuff that the school owns, the city owns down to the river, and then potentially even some of these larger areas, the former county shop along the river, and also the industrial park or the business park. So how do we more proactively develop plans to redevelop those larger areas? Number 3 was supporting downtown commercial district development. So kind of looking at additional opportunities for businesses to, one of the big trends right now with COVID and even before that was just providing enhanced opportunities for the businesses to take advantage of the public right-of-way for outdoor eating, shopping. I think a lot of that's going to happen with the Main Street project, encouraging new catalytic development projects, not just downtown, but in areas like along Fulton Street or Churchill, developing incentive program, which we've been plugging away at. Goal number 4 was supporting business development and retention in the city. So this is a little bit more sort of citywide and less geographically focused, but we put together already kind of a skeleton of a business recruitment and expansion program, but operationalizing that and developing kind of a team. Maybe it's Aaron, maybe it's myself, maybe it's the mayor, maybe it's different people putting together a team and just going out and making sure we're systematically checking in with all of our businesses. We've talked about looking at a co-working space, innovation center. I think Aaron's going to go visit, or he's starting to visit some of these examples, but taking a look at maybe future needs of small businesses and startups and developing programs and facilities for them. Strengthening and expanding small business support. So that's kind of executing on more of utilizing some of our partnerships a little bit more with the Small Business Development Center in Stevens Point, the SCORE program, and creating, I think there's some more targeted work that can be done in terms of working with the chamber and some of those other partners and the county EDC to market some of the small business support programs that we have. Preparing and implementing a marketing plan that's really looking at kind of marketing these plans and these opportunities and business opportunities and real estate opportunities, but packaging this information up and going out and marketing the community with it. And then continuing to partner with these various entities on wayfinding and on tourism, including wayfinding and branding. So looking at those, implementing the chain to main brand and utilizing the wayfinding. And then finally, goal number 5 is sort of looking at your larger employers and manufacturing and potential supply chain opportunities that have been brought up. So want to make sure that the city's still paying attention to larger employees and able to meet their needs as they grow, and including maybe starting to take advantage of or purposefully look at opportunity to target supply chain businesses that might be important assets for some of your larger employers. Marketing availability of and assisting in marketing industrial sites and buildings. Again, some of this stuff gets picked up fairly well on sites like LoopNet and Crexy and some of the commercial broker sites, but a lot of these smaller mom and pop places and smaller businesses don't often get listed, and so the city can we make a proactive effort to monitor those buildings and land and make sure that those are being marketed in different ways, and then participating in initiatives through, whether it's through East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning or through New North, but continuing to participate in regional efforts to market and recruit new businesses. All right, I'm going to get through this in 10 minutes, not 20 minutes. What am I? And then the timeline here, guys, we're plodding along. Next month, I plan to come back with this community vitality chapter. I'm going to sort of include some public works stuff under there, the arts and culture plan, try to bundle a few loose items in a community vitality chapter in November. And then I think it's still realistic that we can push forward and potentially finalize and adopt this plan in December, and get to work. I think one of the important things next year, as we've talked about, is making sure to implement this through some zoning map changes. So there we go. Any questions, comments? Open it up to feedback.
Anybody have any comments? It wasn't that long. You guys aren't sleeping yet.
Yeah, no. Good information as far as I'm concerned, and always food for thought there in terms of how to move forward. So lots of nice data.
Yeah, Andrew, one of the slides that you brought up was it alluded to. Well, let me back up. I felt like it alluded to the concept of winter city design, right? So what we're dealing with in Appleton, what we're dealing with in every state in the northern part of the country, is restaurants and businesses that have on the fly adapted to outdoor dining to offset the hit to their business plans. But now we're looking at winter coming, and a whole bunch of them are going to be in a position where they're not really going to be able to use that as an option anymore, right? I mean, when the temperature drops to a certain place or a certain level and the snow piles up, how many people are going to be willing to sit outside and eat their steak or sushi or whatever the case may be? And it seems to me that the philosophy of winter city design, those communities that have embraced it, the Twin Cities, for instance, are going to be in an advantageous spot, a place where businesses are actually, downtowns and streetscapes and the businesses located there are actually built to thrive in winter environments. And given the scale of downtown Waupaca, I think it's ideally suited for that, building a winter economy. So just my thoughts, excellent element.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback, Jeff. And I've got a really good article I'll send you. And I don't know if you saw it. It just came out. Max Musicant, I think it's from Minneapolis, did an article on winter programming, outdoor programming. So I love that idea, and I think that's great for the city to take on some of that stuff. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the city. That's the chamber, other organizations, but that's a great point.
So just talking about your next steps there, it made me remember that November 4th is actually going to be our city council meeting that night, because Tuesday the 3rd is election night, which is our regular meeting. So we have to move our city council meeting to the 4th. So what are our thoughts on, I mean, I don't think we can get through city planning commission in 45 minutes. I mean, even if we thought we would, that would be the night we wouldn't. So,
So Mayor, we've kind of already, we have set that November meeting for October 26th. We moved it back, if you remember.
okay.
So
All
that
right.
means,
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was just speaking because of what he has on the slide right now. So that's all.
So yeah, sure. Yeah, good point though. We won't have it that night. It will be October 26th, and that means we would not, unless a special meeting was called, would not have a plan commission meeting in the month of November. But yeah, good point.
Okay. So this one on the 26th is going to be considered our regular schedule. We're just going to have it a week ahead of time.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Andrew, in the package that you provided as part of this tonight, I had quite a few questions or comments to make, but I'll send those to you in a separate email.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I would love to get any feedback or comments or questions would be fantastic.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Andrew. So that was just an update on moving forward here with the comprehensive plan. So let's move on to reports then. We have the building permits for September, the code enforcement status reports, and development update. Aaron?
Yeah, nothing really new in building permit reports. I mean, I would say it's more the same. Housing, every week we talk to Jane and Elizabeth, and there's new housing permits coming forward. So that's kind of what you see there. As far as code enforcement status reports, there are a couple of things we're working with some businesses on one on signage, one on another zoning issue, and we are close to enforcement on one of them. One of them, actually, we just made some business owner that was close to that made some changes today with signage, so they've been great to work with throughout the time. And then from an economic development update point of view, Andrew and I were able to visit some people in the Green Bay and Appleton area, specifically some staff at Tier, with some programs that they're doing. Future Nina, we met with a developer that is interested in developing another multi-unit residential property in actually the industrial park, kind of on the sunny day side of, I believe that's Godfrey Drive. So we were able to meet at one of their developments in the Green Bay area, check that out. I think it'd be a good project, and we're waiting on a proposal from them over the next week. I do have some negative news. We had some people looking at the Shopko building, and I received an email this week that it sounded pretty good, and they have backed out of that specific spot. still kind of waiting on a response from them to see if they're still interested in doing something in Waupaca. And I think those are kind of the high points, but I mean, housing continues to move at the pace it was a month or two ago, if not faster, as we head into the winter. So I guess the only other thing I'll say, Mayor, is we're working through the Economic Development Advisory Committee right now. We had a meeting on September 21st, and this is to set the framework for that downtown business incentive program. We have another meeting on Monday of this upcoming week at 5:30, and we hope to get close, if not maybe to a finish line of the framework of that program. If we do, that recommendation of the framework would come to council in November, and possibly we could roll out the program even in December. Although if it needs to take more time, we certainly are okay with that too. And if it's a January start, that we want to make sure we get all the questions answered from the stakeholders and so on and so forth. But we're excited about that program. We've had some fantastic input from people on that committee and also from people that are in the downtown area, business owners, building owners. So yeah, that's a little bit. Mayor, you're involved in a lot of our conversations. Am I missing anything?
No, I don't think so, Aaron. I think we could, maybe on the 26th, we could just put in the packet the proposal that we're looking for doing for the downtown businesses and stuff, so that the planning commissioners are up to date on what we're doing there too.
I think that makes a ton of sense. I will make a note.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this. This is something that we've talked about for years and didn't really realize that we had the ability to do this. So, we have the ability to improve the downtown business area and all businesses in our community. As a matter of fact, with things that they probably wouldn't normally do unless they had some kind of incentive to do them. But they are needed to be done if we want to continue to keep the structure of those buildings in good shape for the future.
I think I really commend you guys for taking such a bold step with this, because the amounts and some, size of the program, I think it's pretty substantial, where it's going to make a difference, relative to a lot of the other programs that we researched as part of this. The amounts are really quite substantial. And so I really, I think it's great that you guys have decided to make that kind of commitment to the downtown in combination with the Main Street renovation itself. I think it's going to be a huge impact.
And Justin, do you want to just, I know this is probably not planning commission type things, but just update people on Granite Street for us?
Sure. So we've graded out the road and we'll be getting concrete down next week is the plan. So the brand new curb and gutter will start on Monday. And then after that is done, then we'll move on to the sidewalk and driveways. So we need a little bit of curing time, but then we're looking at having probably asphalt paving the last couple weeks of October and then just opening it right up. So the project contract and in our specifications state that they need to be finished by October 31st. And if they are not able to accomplish that, then we have penalty provisions built into the contract. So while this project has kind of gone on longer than we'd like, certainly we have a mechanism to kind of recoup or to enforce basically that work going to the end here. So.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
Yep.
Anything else, commissioners or staff, that's for the good of the meeting tonight? All right, we'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Keelan moves it.
Motion by Alan, second by Eric. that we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. We're adjourned at 6:32 PM.